Okay, so once again, good afternoon, everyone, and hopefully po, you're able to take up your lunch. Ayan. So hopefully po, refresh tayo for this afternoon session. Ayan. So I'm coming from here in Batangas City. So welcome po, everyone. So I'm currently blind po dun sa ating chat box. So hopefully I'll be able to interact with everyone in a little while. And so I'll be getting back on those comments sa ating chat box po later on. So hopefully po, if you have questions or concerns regarding this webinar, so I'll be answering, or some of our technical team, yung ating secretariat as well, will be assisting us in responding to those concerns. Ayan. So once again, good afternoon everyone, and welcome po sa ating first webinar for this Disaster Resilience Month, from preparedness to recovery, streamlining resilience across the disaster cycle. Ayan, so sorry po. Having some connectivity issues or concerns po dito a while ago. Ayan, so thank you very much po for coming and being with us this afternoon. So kagaya nga po ng sinabi natin or nabanggit natin a while ago, we will be giving you, or sa atin po mga participants today, especially din po sa mga hindi po nakapasok sa ating live activity for this afternoon, we have a series of activities that will be given out sa atin po for the whole month of July. So kindly watch out po dun sa ating mga registration links that will be posted both for the regions 4A and 4B Facebook pages of the Department of Information and Communications Technology. So once again, good afternoon po. My name is JC Cueto from the DICT Region 4, and I will be hosting this event. Ayan. So hopefully po, kagaya po na nabanggit natin kanina, we will be able to get to know more about the innovations, the advancements of science and technology na pinopromote din po ng government, ng Philippine government, na gamitin, ma-utilize din po natin in the disaster preparedness, resilience, recovery. Ayan, so hopefully during this month of July, nakita natin yung importance ng preparedness to recovery sa ating Philippine environment. Ayan, so without any further ado, let's start this activity. Yeah. So I'll be discussing first our virtual etiquette. So hopefully po everyone on board will be able to complete the attendance link. Ayan. So we will be sharing as well sa ating chat box po yung link ng ating attendance. And as well as, yan, inuunahan ko na po kayo. We will be having our evaluation form that will be shared as well later on bago po matapos yung ating webinar activity. So kindly accomplish that one as well. So for this attendance, accomplish the attendance form by accessing this link. Ayan, so we will be posting that one sa ating chat box po later on. So of course, dun po sa ating mga attendees as well, keep your microphones on mute at all times. So open it up once you are told to do so. And especially if may hinihingi pong answers yung ating pong resource speaker in a later while. So we encourage everyone na mag-participate din po sa ating webinar this afternoon. And of course, for your questions, ayan, so you may either utilize our Q&A box, and questions po should be within the scope of the discussion. So if ever po may mga gusto po kayong i-comment, like, ay, ang ganda ni ma'am, ang galing ni ma'am, ang dami namin natutunan kay ma'am, you may also utilize yung ating chat box po. Ayan, so we will be reading them out para po sa ating resource speaker later on as well. So you may also utilize yung ating chat box po for your questions po. So ako po, being the moderator, will be sharing that sa ating resource speaker later on. Ayan. So accomplish po yung ating attendance. Ayan, nire-remind po namin kayo to accomplish that one. So if ever nagkakaroon po tayo ng problems accessing the form, let us know as well in the chat box po. Ayan. So once again, ayan po, doon sa mga hindi po nakaabot po ng QR code, so flashed on your screen is our attendance form for today. Especially yan din po yung gagamitin natin all throughout this month. Ayan, so kung mapapansin niyo po dun sa ating attendance link, nandyan po lahat ng ating mga activities that will be showcased sa ating po mga constituents po. Ayan, so makikita niyo po dyan lahat ng activities that we have prepared, although some of them po are closed group discussions, so that is prepared for some intended participants. But however, we are also looking forward na ma-share po namin yung learnings din sa later time. Ayan. So kindly be reminded as well that you are to only select the date of the activity that you are participating in. So right now we are July 4. So kindly tick in po yung July 4 activity natin. So the ICT staff will validate your responses and will void out improperly inputted details without prior notice. Ayan. So hopefully po clear po tayo dyan. Kindly tick out lang po yung ating attendance for this afternoon. So July 4 po tayo ngayon. Ayan. So I'll be posting this one sa atin pong chat box po kagaya po na napag-usapan natin later on. Ayan. So without any further ado, ayan, we will be talking about advancing science, technology, and innovation in the RRM. But before we proceed po, let me just get to know po kung saan po tayo nagmula. Ayan, so dito sa ating chat box. So pagpasensyahan nyo na po if yung nakikita nyo po sa screen ay mayroong mga black portion. So I'm currently opening po yung chat box po natin. So ayan, read out ko lang po dito yung ating mga messages. And so we have here mga participants coming from Camarines Sur. Hello po, good afternoon po. We also have coming from Zamboanga City. Hello po. Thankful po kami na nakapag-join po tayo dito sa ating webinar. So hopefully po if you are also familiar po with other participants who would like to get to know more about this topic, kindly encourage them as well to join this activity. So we also have here participants coming from Bulacan. Hello po, good afternoon po. From Bicol, ayan, good afternoon po everyone. So kami po, ayan, Bulacan State University. Hello po, good afternoon po. Ayan. From Ifugao, hello po, good afternoon po. We also have BJMP GMA. Ayan, so hello po, good afternoon po sa ating lahat. Ayan. We also have here from Marikina City. Hello po, hello. Ayan, so hopefully po hindi maulan sa ating areas na nabanggit. Kanina po kasi while I was reading or listening sa ating radyo, may mga portions na po in Mindanao na currently experiencing mga localized thunderstorms. Naging weather forecaster. Ayan, so hopefully po you are all safe kung nasaan man po kayo. Ayan. Lalong-lalo na po, ngayon po ay start na rin nga po or part na siya ng rainy season natin. So hopefully po, you are all dry. Yan. So hindi po tayo nakakasakit. Mas malimit ngayon yung magkaroon tayo ng sakit. Ayan. Okay, so I hope everyone's thrilled already about the discussion for this afternoon. Ayan. So to formally start na talaga, ito na po yung start ng ating discussion. So I'll be introducing to you our resource speakers. So we are very grateful po that from the Department of Science and Technology that they have allowed us to share this kind of webinars sa inyo po. Ayan. We have also got their assistance para po ma-showcase yung mga different activities in line with disaster prevention, mitigation, and event response. Ayan. So our resource speaker for this afternoon, she is a disaster risk reduction professional from the Department of Science and Technology. Currently handling disaster risk or current position po ng ating resource speaker is Disaster Risk Reduction and Climate Change Unit as Project Development Officer 5. Ayan. So thankful po tayo kay Ms. Rachel Ann Miranda, who also got her master's degree in disaster risk and resilience from Ateneo de Manila University and graduated cum laude at Bicol University with Bachelor of Science Education, major in physical science. Ayan. So mga taga Bicol. Ayan. So hopefully you're also listening all the way there sa ating resource speaker. So her research specialization and interest covers climate change adaptation, risk communication, ICS, disaster statistics, science and technology, international and local humanitarian work, and human security. She is also awarded as UNESCO Club Outstanding Young Professional last 2022. So without any further ado, ayan, let us all welcome Ms. Rachel Ann Miranda. Hello po ma'am, good afternoon po.
Hi JC, thank you for the kind introduction at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. So sa muli, ako po si Rachel Ann L. Miranda mula sa Departamento ng Agham at Teknolohiya. And tama nga si Sir JC, that July is designated as the Resilience Month. Aside from the fact as well na July is also ICT month. So we're very happy that we are with DICT at this celebration, as at this observance, to share with you our efforts in
Recording in progress.
advancing science, technology, and innovation and disaster risk reduction and management. And nakakatuwa po kasi karamihan po sa inyo ay galing sa Metro Manila, sa Luzon, merong Bulacan, may Rizal, and parang may Kamsur kanina. Oh, may Zamboanga City pa pala dito. So, napaka-wide nung reach ng webinar natin. And I hope that this would also be a timely reminder for us that the best time really not to prepare for and anticipate for hazards is actually habang wala pa pong sakuna. So please do allow me to present with you what is the important role of science and technology when it comes to advancing and optimizing innovation to make sure na ito ay align sa ating resilience agenda. Please allow me to start this presentation by sharing with you one word na madalas na po ninyong naririnig. Sa inyong pananaw, ano po ba ang kahulugan ng resilience? Sige po, how do you associate the term resilience? You can use the chat box po and sharing your thoughts. Sabi ni Sir Jerwin, withstand calamity. Tama po kayo, yung abilidad o ang kakayahan ng mga Pilipino na ma-face o hindi lang ma-face ma-survive, ma-withstand yung mga calamity. Kung sa laro daw, makabalik or makabalik agad siguro no kapag natalo. That's a nice analogy. Siguro online games 'yun. Meron din dito maka-recover back to the operational status. That is quite interesting. Kumbaga, you return back to your normal or even better phase, no? Ability to adapt to difficult situations. So marami yung interesting points ninyo. Meron dito pa na easily adapt to environment, pagiging matatag. Yun yung mga words associated or phrases associated with resilience. And if we look at the by the book definition, tingnan nyo nga po kung parehas yun doon sa perceived knowledge or definition natin kung ano ang resilience. In our search to fully define ano ba yung resilience in the context of Philippines and among Filipinos, ito yung mga operational definitions na madalas nating nakikita. The first one is the ability to resist, absorb, adapt to, transform, and recover. Kung titingnan po ninyo, karamihan ng definitions ninyo, pasok po dito. Ibig sabihin, from your original state, kapag nagkaroon ng disruptions, ay meron tayong kakayahan na i-absorb, i-adapt, o di kaya mag-transform at makarecover pa kapag tayo yung nasalanta. But there are also perceptions that when we talk about resilience, it's about surviving. But in reality, resilience must be moving beyond merely surviving. Ang context kasi nun is that if you survived the disruption, the disaster incident, dapat kung magre-recover ka, hindi na ikaw yung susunod na masasalanta kung may susunod na disaster na mangyayari. Kaya ang context natin dito is moving beyond merely surviving. And the last, when I think about resilience, is that it should be a way of life. It should be embedded in our daily activities It should be embedded in our regular businesses, in our offices, in our schools, and among others. And while we have different appreciation of what resilience is, siguro there's one thing that we could agree on base na rin sa mga binahagi nyo kanina, na despite having faced adversities, disruptions, calamities, or disasters, we are able to adjust, transform, and most importantly, yung tinatawag nating build back better or building back to move forward better. And this is why in our work in the Department of Science and Technology, we perceive resilience as grit. It is our stamina to persevere and persist even in the midst of challenges. And as a DRR professional myself, I learned that it's very important to have a personal appreciation of resilience and how it is best applied in our respective fields, because doon natin makikita na dapat hindi lang siya survival or hindi lang siya yung context na nagkakanya-kanya tayo, but looking at resilience in the field of disaster risk reduction, it's actually interconnected. So, perhaps we ask the questions now that we know this terminology, na-review natin yung terminology na resilience. Are Filipinos resilient? Ayan. Type nyo nga po sa chat box, yes or no. Kayo na po nag-define kung ano yung resilience. So, my interesting question is, are Filipinos resilient? And some of you answered big yes. Capital lang talaga. Meron talagang big yes. Yan. Kung pasok siya sa definition ninyo. Well, it's our perception, no? The thing with having an operational definition, ibabalik ko sa inyo yung tanong. Kapag meron ulit na sakuna, are the same communities still affected by calamities? And if your answer is yes, sila pa rin yung natatamaan, then definitely that's not resilience. However, there's another context of psychological resilience, which is actually an interesting take on how Filipinos adopt and transform. Ang downside ng psychological resilience is that we tend to be lenient when it comes to accountability. Kaya dapat bumalik tayo doon. Kaya if you ask me if we are resilient, I'm in the middle. I'm still figuring out whether we are resilient. But definitely our psychological resilience is one thing. Pangalawa, matatanong din po natin, why are we innovating? Why are we introducing technologies? Yan. Ano po sa tingin ninyo? What's the very reason why we, for example, at the DOST fund technologies? O di kaya, why does the DICT conduct these kinds of initiatives? Bakit kailangan natin magkaroon ng innovations sa Pilipinas? And I'll give you some compelling reasons. Yan, sabi ni Jerwin, minimize the impact of disaster. That's one thing. But please do allow me to share compelling reasons. Nothing undermines development than disasters. Because once a disaster strike, it can destroy decades of progress in an instant. And in the report of the World Bank in 2022, nakasaad po dito na 1.2% to as much as 4.6% of the country's GDP or gross domestic product is actually lost annually due to the damages brought about by tropical cyclones or typhoons. And to put it simply, it means that we are losing our economic gains. We are losing our livelihoods and even the efforts na ginagawa natin every time we recover from a disaster. At bakit nga po ba ito nangyayari? Well, in the 2022 World Risk Index, hulaan po ninyo kung ikailan ang Pilipinas. Out of 193 countries, ang Pilipinas po ay number 1 when it comes to the country most prone to disaster risks, the country most exposed to natural hazards and the impacts of climate change. The World Risk Report is actually a measure of the risks that we have across the world. At kung titingnan po ninyo, as shown in the screen, yung top 10, andyan po ang Pilipinas, number 1, Indonesia, kasi kapitbahay natin, number 3, and Myanmar, no, all in the ASEAN, are placed in the top 10 highest risks across the world. And ano po ba yung nilalaman nitong report na ito? So it doesn't only look at losses in lives or damages to agriculture, but also looks into ano po ba yung mga capacities natin or adaptive capacities natin. What are the things that we are doing to make sure that we are addressing our exposure? Kasi yung exposure natin, that is something that is difficult to mitigate because oftentimes it's brought by our geographic location. Apart from that, the World Risk Index report also tells us that disaster risks are partly caused by natural hazards. So may bantang panganib dahil sa natural phenomenon, but it also stems from the vulnerability and lack of coping and adaptive capacity of the people. Ibig sabihin po, ano yung mga kakayahan na dapat that we are building on. And according to UNDRR, vulnerability is the easiest pathway to reduce because we can do something about it. And what we are doing today is actually increasing our capacity through advocacy programs such as what the DICT is doing for this Resilience Month. And if you look also closely to the World Risk Index report, 9 out of 15 countries in the report are actually also in the same ranking of the 15 most populous countries in the world. What does it tell us? Na kapag dumadami yung populasyon, then the more people will be more exposed to risk. And pang-apat, despite China and India being one of the 5 largest economies in the world, they're still in the top 5 of countries most at risk. And doon papasok yung tinatawag na increased disparity and socio-economic inequality. Ibig sabihin, the most exposed and vulnerable to disasters are oftentimes the poorest of the poor. Kaya risk pa din pong maituturing ang disparity or yung malaking agwat ng mayayaman at mahirap sa isang bansa. But apart from the context of the World Risk Index report, among the compelling reasons why we need to innovate is of course our geographic location. So the Philippines is situated to what is called as the Pacific Typhoon Belt. Ilan po kayang bagyo ang na-generate ng ng Pacific Ocean na dumadaan sa Pilipinas. According to our bureau, DOST Pag-asa, an average of 20 tropical cyclones enter the Philippine area of responsibility in a year. And out of that 20, 8 to 9 ay kadalasang nagla-landfall. So, ibig sabihin, 8 to 9 doon ang nakakasalanta, nakakadamage ng ating mga properties. Since I am from Legazpi City and Albay, doon sa 5 na yon ay sa siyam na yon na dumadaan or pumapasok sa Philippine Area of Responsibility. Actually, isa doon laging dumadaan sa Bicol at laging destructive. And if you look closely in the photo as shown, that's the track of tropical cyclones from 1948 to 2010. And kulang na lang, no? Medyo, mabura na yung Pilipinas sa mapa. And the Philippines is very much known as exporter of tropical cyclones, lalo na sa exporter ng bagyo sa Vietnam and Hong Kong yan minsan. The second exposure of the country is the exposure to the Pacific Ring of Fire. So scientifically, it's a horseshoe-like active fault and trenches in the Asia Pacific which generates energy released through earthquakes or movement of the plates, no? Yan. And kung titingnan niyo po sa Pilipinas, karamihan po, yan, itong nasa kaliwa, karamihan po ay mga active faults and trenches. And hindi lang po doon, dahil doon, but also because of the active volcanoes in the country. And sa Calabarzon, meron tayong Taal Volcano, one of the most active volcanoes as well in the Philippines. And right now, Mayon Volcano is exhibiting increased level of tendency when it comes to eruption. But for us Albayanos, historically, the Mayon volcano eruption is just a show of lava flow. And sometimes yung pinaka-damaging is yung pyroclastic flow. But it's very safe to go there. Just hindi pupunta sa loob ng permanent danger zone. So ganun po kadami, no, kaabundant ng mga bantang panganib sa Pilipinas. But if there's anything that we want to demystify is that we actually echo the statement of UNDRR that there is no such thing as natural disaster, only natural hazard. And perhaps this is the first time that you've come across itong terminology. Ay, bawal na palang sabihan yung natural disaster. Or baka alam nyo na yun. Mas maganda kung alam nyo na yun, no? We no longer use natural disaster as a phrase to suggest or to name a disaster because it gives people an idea na kapag natural disaster, it's naturally occurring. Hindi po. Hindi po natural ang mga disaster. And when we mean to say disaster, it's a disruption in the functioning of the community na nagdudulot ng losses in lives and damages to agriculture or damages to our livelihood. Hindi po natural yun. Hindi rin po siya act of God. We always emphasize that we can do something to prevent hazards from turning or from becoming to disasters. Kaya hindi po siya natural disaster. Instead, we refer to it as natural hazard. So natural hazard, these are the threats due to the natural phenomenon. And among the perfect examples that we usually experience here in the Philippines, as made mention kanina, tropical cyclones, storm surge, what else? earthquake, tsunami, volcanic eruption, these are naturally occurring threats. Even flooding, for one, is, I don't think it's purely a natural hazard. Oftentimes, meron siyang human-induced component. Doon na papasok yung urban cities design, and flood management natin. So, you see, when we talk about disasters, it's not just about natural hazards. Oftentimes, it's a combination or a function of a lot of things. Kaya ine-emphasize po natin yan. That's why, in this aspect, we want our listeners, our participants here, to let that climate and disaster data settle in. Some may be new to you, or yung iba, narinig na po ninyo. And we want you to become advocates by sharing that kinds of information. So, let's respond to the main question. Why are we innovating? We are innovating because we want to stop or prevent hazards from becoming disasters. And we would like to start by changing the way we think and changing the way we act. And that's the biggest part of our resilience innovations at the Department of Science and Technology. This is why this year we actually published a ebook on DUST Innovations, web and mobile applications for disaster risk reduction and management. And I think ito yata yung nakam-across ni Sir Mark from DICT 4A. That's why they reached to our office and share with us this book. So essentially, this book serves as a guide among our stakeholders to use this web and mobile applications and to advocate the use of scientific data in planning and decision making. We always say that science guides our decision making. Science guides our actions towards resilience. The best information na makikuha natin are available in our latest innovations. So please, I'll be briefly sharing with you all these web and mobile applications at paano po ninyo siya gamitin. Now that it's also ICT month, there are also conversations on digital transformation, and I think it's most useful po na kung gagamitin na siya para sa inyong family preparedness at sa inyong resilience agenda at the community or even at the organizational level. So I divided the succeeding slides into two parts. I'll be introducing to you our STI, our products, our services at the department, and how can we best localize it, of course. And pangalawa po, on partnerships. So the very first one that I'd like to share with you is the GeoRisk Philippines Initiative. Sino po dito sa inyo ang nakarinig na ng GeoRisk PH? Patype nga po ng letter G sa chat box. If you've heard of it or kayo mismo nakapag-interact na sa web browser natin. Of course, DICT, thank you. And I hope the rest of you will also be checking this out later. No? So what is GeoRisk Philippines Initiative? So GeoRisk PH, in short, is actually the Philippines source of information for accurate and efficient hazards and risk assessment to help government increase the nation's resilience to natural hazards. Essentially, the vision is to capture exposure data from all over the Philippines. So, yun yung kung anong meron sa GeoRIS PH. And yung GeoRIS PH po is actually an innovative geospatial integrated platform developed by the Department of Science and Technology in cooperation with the National Disasters Reduction and Management Council member agencies, specifically po no, yung mga mandated on scientific information to harmonize yung ating information and gather multi-hazard information. Essentially, the main aim of GRIS PH is to improve our vulnerability and risk assessments and provide information on climate, our disaster prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery planning. At yung GeoRisk PH po ay pwedeng ma-access sa www.georis.dost.gov.ph. Yan. I can share later here yung link ng GeoRisk PH. And GeoRisk PH actually have four features. So we have here GeoMapper PH, and GeoAnalytics PH, Hazard Hunter PH, and this new addition, the Plan Smart. So baka magtanong po kayo, alin ba dito yung pang individual, pang community, pang barangay, pang organization? Sige po, isa-isahin po natin briefly. So the very first one is the GeoMapper PH. And it has two modules. The first one is the Exposure Data Mapper, which collects information on the social, physical, financial, and other aspects of a particular building or land area. So, dito makikita natin whether your area is exposed to what particular hazard, active fault, malapit sa atin, kung prone to liquefaction, tsunami, among others. And dito sa database natin, it will give us an idea kung sino yung exposed. So, makikita natin, we can actually even zoom into to the disaggregated data, whether babae, lalaki, or bata, senior citizens, among others. The second one is the Situation Data Mapper. So this is a dashboard that may be utilized during a disaster event. So here, dinidisplay natin yung maps, charts, infographics, and this will help decision makers to better formulate their response plans. So for this feature of the GRIS PH, we are only giving this access to government instrumentalities involved in DRM. So for DICT as the communication lead, or if you have colleagues here from social welfare and development, for other aspects of response, and among others. And as we are building on the database, local government units can also request access as necessary. Yeah. But you see, in our intent to innovate the way of doing things in the government, dapat mas efficient at systematic yung appreciation natin ng scientific data. And GeoMapper PH is a big contributor to that. The second one is the GeoAnalytics PH. So this one provides the visualization and hazards assessment of local government unit level land area. We mentioned LGU because it's bound sa jurisdictional boundaries natin. Hindi lang sa land area but also population and related exposure information. Kasama na dito yung mga schools, health facilities, evacuation centers, roads, road networks, among other. So, ito po yung example natin ng isang visualization tool. Gamit po ang Geoanalytics PH showing the rain-induced landslide in Cebu City. So the map shows the intersection of the Geological Bureau's rain-induced landslide information and the statistics po no of administrative boundary in existing schools and health facilities in Cebu City. So, ito po, available po ito sa public. Lahat po ng na-generate natin, available po sa public. Next feature of GeoRIS PH is Hazard Hunter PH. Actually, isa ito sa pinaka mas accessible po sa lahat. There is also an available mobile application for this one. So, sino po dito nakagamit na ng Hazard Hunter PH? Patay po ng letter H naman. Or ito po ba yung first time ninyo na narinig ito? Ayun, meron na. That's nice to know. Dalawa pa lang out of ito. Pero sana mamaya magamit po ninyo. Ayan. So Hazard Hunter PH is a publicly available platform which provides site-specific seismic, volcanic, and hydrometeorological related hazards. So in the tip of your fingers, in a click away, you can now generate a hazard assessment report by typing in saan yung location po ninyo. So the system will produce this comprehensive report which explains the hazard information and syempre yung pinaka-importante po, ano yung mga recommendations na pwede po ninyong gawin para po hindi maging disastrous yung hazard po natin. And yung mga information dito ay magagamit po ninyo sa pagpaplano ninyo sa bahay ninyo, sa community, sa barangay, even po no, sa mga organizations natin. Quite interesting because this is the most often used feature of GRS PH. Bakit po ba natin kailangan malaman kung ano yung hazards na meron tayo sa lugar natin? Ano po ba yung rationale behind it? Well, it's actually quite simple. We want to know so that we can prepare and anticipate better. So for example, I'm here in Taguig and I know that our office is a few kilometer away from an active fault passing through the West Valley Fault System. So dapat yung second na bahay namin, yung opisina namin, can withstand intensity 8, 'di ba? So alam natin na we could do something about it. And your interventions will not just be limited to advocacy. Ang mas maganda po talaga is mga structural interventions. Because if you look closely at Japan, Los Angeles, in California, in US, New Zealand, these are also often devastated or often sila nakakaranas ng earthquake but definitely limited yung losses nila. And it's because they invested in good structures, invested in building infrastructures that are abiding structural and building code natin. So it actually makes sense. Kung alam yung babaha among others, so dapat meron kayong preparedness measures kapag in-announce na may bagyo. So all this kinds of information gives us an idea on how we can avert disasters. And I hope the rest of you will also check this out po mamaya para malaman natin kung may mga dapat pa bang interventions sa inyong mga barangay. Ayan. And a new inclusion in the Hazard Hunter PH is the climate projection. So we all know that climate change is is a continuing concern po, no, hindi lang sa Pilipinas but across the world. It's important to note that the emissions, carbon emissions, the greenhouse gases, largely contribute to the warming of the globe, which later translate to impacts in the climate. So, saan po ba yung prone yung Pilipinas? We are prone to sea level rise, and of course, the increasing intensity of tropical cyclones. And kaya po siya nakalagay na dito sa Hazard Hunter PH because now we can have a climate projection in the whole Philippines, or you can zoom in po, no, sa area natin. So pwedeng mag project ng rainfall, and even po, no, yung mga El Nino natin, malalaman natin. Yeah. The last feature for GeoRisk PH is the Plan Smart Ready to Rebuild, which is a web application that aims to streamline the processes in releasing funds for rehabilitation and recovery by allowing local government units to auto-generate a rehabilitation and recovery plan. So the thing with Plan Smart Ready to Rebuild is that there will be sets of priorities kahit bago pa po mag-recover yung isang local government unit, because it became a challenge that we don't know the direction, no, right after a disaster. Paano ba tayo makakapag-recover? So now with Plan Smart Ready to Rebuild, ahead of time, meron kayong sets of priorities. In countries like Japan, they recover faster. Hindi ko alam kung napapanood niyo yun, yung parang nagkaroon ng sinkhole, in 2 days, ayos na agad. It's because they know their strategic directions and they already communicate this with the mandated agencies. And that is the intent of Plan Smart Ready to Rebuild. Once you are once a local government unit is devastated from the impacts of a hazard, then meron na siyang sets of priorities to recover. And mind you, recovery, rehabilitation, and recovery is the intersection to prevention and mitigation. Kadalasan kasi we look into preparedness, response, rehab, and recovery as magkakaiba, no? But it is actually a continuum. When we recover, when we rehabilitate, dapat mas malakas pa tayo sa original state natin. Na hindi lang tayo babalik sa dati. Dapat mas meron na siyang kakayahan. And that's the main intent of Plan Smart. And this is of course can be accessed by the local government unit. And to give you a summary, ito po yung apat na yan na features ng GeoRisk PH natin. And magagamit po yan by, of course, by the intended users, which is also communicated in our DUST Innovations book. Pati po contact details ng pwede nyo kausapin. Yan, kagaya na rin po yung naitanong dito, if you want to have credentials, you can directly communicate with our GeoRisk PH team. Here's a sample of a local DRM plan in Ormoc City na gumamit po sila ng GeoRisk PH in developing their plan. So it is actually very helpful sa local government unit. But ako personally, in my family and my community, I always say na make use of this available platform. Kasi it's a click away eh. Madali na siya ngayon. Dati po, mano-mano. Dati, kailangan may magmamapa pa from the LGU, which is, I think, still okay for a more clear perspective. But we also have alternatives right now. And I hope you maximize this existing innovations to help you in your decision making and planning sa inyong mga lugar. Ayan. Now let's go over some of the technologies, the web and mobile applications as well in the DUST Innovations book. The other parts ng technology natin is the Rapid Earthquake Damage Assessment System. So this one is a software that can simulate po no yung earthquake hazards such as ground shaking, liquefaction, landslides, and tsunami. So dito yung software na to can compute yung earthquake impacts in terms of physical damage, casualties, and economic loss. So, napakaganda po nitong gamitan, lalo na sa mga nagde-develop ng mga scenarios, gumagawa ng mga contingency plan, kasi pwede po kayo mag-set ng ano ba yung bad, worst scenario na pwede po ninyong i-build on. So, in Metro Manila, for example, through the study of FIVOX and JICA and OCD, nalaman na kapag nagkaroon ng earthquake sa Metro Manila, there will be over 33,000 deaths. So, and that's based on the nighttime population of Metro Manila. So, it speaks so much of paano natin babawasan yung casualties na yun. Ayaw natin yung mangyari. So, it speaks so much on how we can prepare. And the REDAS is very helpful. There's a separate training about REDAS, and ako nakapag-training ako ng REDAS, but this is very technical in nature sa local government unit natin. Magagamit po nila ito para makapag-generate ng impact assessment. But it's no longer limited to earthquake actually. They develop other parts of REDAS. If I'm not mistaken, there's also flood loss assessment tool. Meron din on crop damage assessment. And then merong tsunami simulation and impact assessment. Yan. Lalo na yung mga taga Mindoro and sa Zamboanga, because historically, merong local tsunamis na nangyari sa Pilipinas that time, in your respective locality. So dapat alam natin yung mga possible na impacts nito sa atin. The next one is Payong Pag-asa. Ayan. By the name itself, it's actually from the Bureau of DOST, Pag-asa. This is a web platform po no, that provides accessibility to climatological information and advisories for agriculture, water resources, and other socio-economic sectors. Ako everyday, ang una kong gagawin bago ako pumasok is titingnan ko kung ano yung weather forecast. And Payong Pag-asa provides a very comprehensive information about it. So, support nyo na yung sarili nating gawa na technology, and of course, it is most accurate dahil yung mga systems na ginagamit natin are based here in Philippines, and kalat-kalat po sila sa buong Pilipinas. And when you're planning for your vacation, there's a weather forecast in three-day advance. Kahit yung mga tourist destinations nandun. So, tingnan po natin yun. Apart from that, meron ding monitoring ng rainfall. Yun, 10-day pala na weather outlook yung meron sa Pag-asa. And even po no sa mga farmers natin, mas magagamit din po yung information dito kasi there's a specific tab for agriculture, agri-weather information. The third one after GRS PH is the FIVOX fault finder. So by the term itself, you are finding fault. Yan, active fault nga lang. So this is web and mobile application that can determine the location of active faults in an area as well as measure the shortest distance between the active fault and the user. So hindi lang po sa Metro Manila may big one, no? Other regions as well potentially have their own big one. So dapat lahat tayo ay nagpe-prepare kasi madalas yung paglindol sa Pilipinas. At kung nagmo-monitor po kayo ng FIVOX Facebook account, everyday meron. Average 20. Yung iba hindi na natin nararamdaman. But it's important na alam natin na merong active fault para alam din natin na ito rin yung isa sa mga priority hazards natin na dapat meron tayong kaukulan na paghahanda. So among the usual interventions, of course, participating actively in drills, whether it's a earthquake drill or earthquake and fire drill. Pwede rin po na mas magkaroon ng structural intervention sa mga facility, yung mga retrofitting na tinatawag. Which leads me to the connected app, yon. How safe is my house application? This is also available in web browser. So, ang gagawin lang naman dito is to check whether your house is in compliance to earthquake safety for concrete hollow block houses in the Philippines. So, kapag nasagutan niyo po yun, maglalabas siya ng assessment kung safe ba yung house ninyo. And if not safe, then may recommend further professional consultations, lalo na po yung pagdating sa structural strengthening. In here, we emphasize that when it comes to earthquakes don't actually kill. It's poorly built infrastructures that do kill people. Kaya ang messaging always is to build structurally sound houses and infrastructures. Kasi kung makita nyo, no, kapag merong pagyanig sa kung saan man sa Pilipinas, ang kadalasan na zoom in yung mga bahay. Yan. Kasi sila po yung kadalasan na hindi na walang architect, walang engineer. So yun po. Dapat it should be structurally sound. And this application will help you start your resilience journey by assessing first your house. Yeah. And then lastly, in the set of DOST innovations is the Volcano PH app. So this one provides you real-time volcano advisories with notifications informing users to the of the latest activities of active volcanoes in the country. So ngayon, alam nyo ng alert level 3 si Mayon Volcano, si Taal alert level 1 if I'm not mistaken. Na fake news pa recently no, nung pumutok si Mayon na nagtumaas din daw sa alert but not the case. So this will give you an idea as well of the supply chain dynamics. So in our case, for example, sa Albay, maaapektuhan yung mga farmers surrounding Mayon Volcano. Similar with Taal kasi may mga farmers din. So these kinds of information will help you prepare in other aspects po ng paghahanda ninyo sa inyong mga community. And those are just a little bit of few of web and mobile applications of the department. But apart from that, yung context po kasi ng resilience when it comes to science, technology, and innovation are cross-cutting. So, we introduce as well yung mga early warning systems. So, as it is the primary mandate of the Department of Science and Technology to ensure information about risk information about these hazards are communicated, meron po tayong sistema. And part of it is one, understanding hazards in our areas, communicating that hazard, and syempre po, no, early information, dapat meron ding early action. Yan. And part of that action component is building your infrastructures and designing our settlements. So, hindi naman po pwede na, na yung LGU natin, ano lang, no? Tinitingnan ng bawat isa-isa lang na bahay. We should look at the big picture as well. Like, if this is it's a settlement area, it's a housing area, then how did we design first our houses? Is it far away from a active fault? Or is it structurally sound? Ayos ba yung drainage system? So, you see, it's an entire design of a city, no? Kaya dapat involved tayo. Merong mga public consultations on comprehensive development plan, land use planning. So be involved in that. LGU do conduct public consultation. Another aspect or dimension of resilience that the department also contributes with is on the aspect of environment. We always say that climate change, for instance, is not the problem. It's the symptom of the problem. The problem is global warming. So, babalik at babalik tayo sa context na how are we protecting, how are we ensuring that the environment is at the state that is most suitable. Kaya nga, ang favorite quote ko from my Ateneo Master's class is that the quality of our humanity is actually mirrored by the quality of the environment is mirrored by the quality of life. Imagine if the environment is well preserved, it's an entire ecosystem itself, then definitely it's also translated in how we live. So there are instances that when we degrade our environment, then definitely it will parang reflect sa mga tao. Kaya nga nauso yung ano eh, yung term na act of nature. But in reality, was it really the nature or was it our doing? So part of our initiatives as well is to make sure that we are preserving the environment, our biodiversity, among others. And because it also translates to our security in terms of water and food. So yan yung dalawang aspect na nagiging focus. I don't know if you've heard of it, but in the current administration, due to certain foresighting po ng mga scenarios, there will be, sabi nila, mawala ng tubig, mawala ng magkakaroon ng limitations when it comes to potable water. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng mga introduction to several technologies and maraming water filtration system na pinondohan ang DOST that helps community have an alternative source of clean water. And of course, agriculture. Kasi kadalasan po, agriculture yung mas nadadamage kapag na-impact ng mga hazards natin. So, meron din tayong mga innovations dito. Isa na dito, I think, is yung forecasting ng weather and helping our farmers make sure that they could do something about it before magkaroon ng bagyo. And then, lastly, on the dimension of resilience is on transportation and energy. We cannot just say na dapat magbawas tayo ng carbon emissions without introducing new technologies. In transportation, we now introduce solar powered transportation, and recently we embarked with charging stations for solar powered or hybrid cars. And then lastly, energy. So part nun is we transition to clean and green energy. So napakadami po pala no ng ginagawa ng DOST. While our FIVOX and Pag-asa bureaus are the primary agencies in disaster risk reduction, there are also other dimensions that we are working with. But it's not only DOST po, no? Some of the researches, the technologies are actually proposed by state universities across the Philippines, kaya kung meron din po kayo, and funded and supported by the DOST. Even mga startups po, no, yung mga innovation, natin dyan, part na po sila ng sinusuportahan. So you just have to go through a submission, the process of submitting your proposals. And this year, ito yung mga i-embark pa ng DOST in support and in partnership with mandated government institutions. Ayan, renewable energy sources, protecting freshwater sources, hybrid transportation system, biodegradable materials and circular economy, smart technologies, resilient buildings and infra, and digital transformation. So, marami po talaga no kapag usapin ng resilience. This is why we emphasize that we should make use of technology and innovations to safeguard our economic gains. And pinaka-importante po sa lahat is that to make sure that it actually save lives and our livelihood. So now that I'm towards the second part of this presentation, let me just put into perspective yung from the resilience word pa din. In the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 10 po doon ay actually nagko-contribute to our resilience agenda. The primary is of course SDG 11. Pero imagine nyo po, no, 10 pala yung na magkakadugtong, magkakakonect. And when we do our resilience effort, it's important to harness collaboration and partnership. And while we are doing that, make sure that we are using the systems lens and foresighting. I know these are buzzwords, but let me briefly share with you my thoughts about it. I did a class in Ateneo on systems thinking, and what fascinates me is that our actions are interconnected. Whether you introduce an innovation today, it will definitely have an impact in the future. So, with systems thinking, we make sure that we are not just introducing band-aid solutions or solutions of today and then problems of tomorrow. So, with systems thinking, we are appreciating how our solutions are interconnected. Our problems are interconnected. Just like this photo. Yung isa sa mga pinaka perfect example ko dito is that I remember um it was a project. They built big dikes or no, big ano yung tawag nga po yung sa river. um it's like a wall na parang prevents flooding in a community in somewhere in the Philippines. Tapos eventually, um, 5 years, 7 years later, nagkaroon ng malaking pagbabaha and nasira po yung structure na ginawa nila. And the first thing the communities mentioned is, first time pong nangyari sa amin yung yung malaking mataas na pagbabaha. 7 years ago, it wasn't their first time. So when we introduce, lalo na po yung mga structural solutions, let's not also forget to increase other capacities. Kasi kapag nasira yon, when it's bound to fail, yung mga ganong kalaking mga structures, then definitely they will always feel like it's their first time. And disasters happen when you forget the last one. And apart from forgetting the last one, disasters also happen when we don't anticipate. Kaya po sinisituate din natin yung resilience agenda natin with foresighting because you anticipate future scenarios. For example, if Calabarzon is the most populous region in the Philippines. It's not NCR. Number 2 na lang po ang NCR. Ang most populous, Calabarzon. Kaya lang, mas dense lang yung NCR. But Calabarzon is a populous region. And in the future, we're looking at cities growing even more. So, ang tanong, gagaya ba kayo sa NCR na traffic? Gagaya ba kayo sa NCR na hindi masyadong na maximize yung planning ng mass transportation, for example. So, foresighting allows you to create your future, the future that you want, pero ngayon nyo gagawin. So that's why I personally like these two principles, thinking and futures thinking. And it's very aligned with our resilience agenda. And then lastly, resilience, individual resilience, community resilience, and even organizational resilience all boils down to improving quality of life. It will give you a sense of hindi lang pala magsusurvive, hindi ka lang magsusurvive kapag nandyan yung sakuna. you can transform and be better about it. And ang mahalaga din dito is that we translate our commitments into action. Ako as someone na galing sa isa sa mga disaster-prone area in the country, mas mahalaga na we build capacities at the front line, at the level of individuals and family. That's the best way that we can translate our commitments into action. So, to wrap it up, when you think about resilience, ano na yung naiisip nyo ngayon? Ayan. And I hope some of you might retain the same definition that you have in the first slide that I asked kanina. Some of you might have a new appreciation of what resilience is all about. But to end this slide, siguro I'd like to um, say that resilience cuts across different aspects and sectors. So it's not just with the science and technology, but also in the transportation, energy, with information communication technology, among others. It's cross-cutting. And we firmly believe that in establishing yung resilience natin as core development strategy, then definitely we can build on our developments. We also need to shift from response to prevention and mitigation. Prevention and mitigation is quite expensive, it's costly, but it saves lives and livelihood. For me, as a practitioner, half the battle is won if we prioritize prevention and mitigation. So, with prevention and mitigation, we need to reinforce building codes, land use policies. Kasi yun yung mga pwede nating gawin habang wala pang sakuna. And apart from our disaster risk reduction initiatives, kailangan din natin ng adaptation. We need greener and cleaner energy. So, yung truest form din po kasi ng first line of defense pagdating sa climate change and disaster is boiling back to how can humans reduce their carbon emissions. So with that, I hope that excites you and interests you with the science, technology, and innovation initiatives developed, supported, or supported by the Department of Science and Technology. And we are also equally excited because we know that one way or another, these applications have actually improved the life of others, the life especially of the most vulnerable people. So sana we make use of these technologies kasi yun yung panangga natin bago pa magkaroon ng mga sakuna. And to wrap it up, allow me to share these two books, DOST Innovations in Disaster Risk Reduction and Management and Science for Resilience. Resilience, these are two books that are all available in our website, ust.gov.ph. So just click on the downloads or publications tab and you can access po itong libro natin. So with that, thank you so much everyone for listening, and I hope you have learned a thing or two about advancing STI and DRM. I am once again Rachel po from DOST. Thank you. Back to you, Sir JC.
All right. So thank you very much po, Ma'am Rachel, for that very wonderful discussion. And so we have learned so many activities, so many application and software developed by the Department of Science and Technology. And yun nga, nag-a-align nga yung mga activities ng DOST and as well as ng DICT. So kanina, while you were discussing din po, Ma'am, isa dun sa mga nakuha kong insights is that it is not only dun sa paggamit natin ng mga system, software, applications that we can prepare for any possible or disasters. But to start with yung mga simple activities like reducing yung mga greenhouse gases by planting trees. Ayan. Kasi I have this sort of a study before, although it's in line with the carbon emission ng ETs or ng ICT equipment, but somehow yun nga, pag we are trying to reduce those carbon emissions dun sa mga simplest forms, yung kahit yung pag-unplug lang ng mga appliances natin, it helps save the environment and of course helps na makapag-prevent ng possibility na magkaroon ng calamities na magpapasok within the country. And so thank you very much po ma'am sa ating pong wonderful discussion. So kanina I was also browsing dito po sa ating live chat. So ayan po, for the information of everyone, we are also live stream po sa Facebook pages nga ng DICT Regions 4A and as well as DICT Region 4B. So thank you very much po. I'm reading as well yung ating mga nag-chat. Ayan, so thank you po daw sa ating resource speaker. So very knowledgeable yung nakuha nating
and as well as
insights
the
this
ICT Region
afternoon.
4B. So
Ayan.
thank you very much po. I'm
So to
reading
give
as
you
well
also
yung
ma'am,
ating mga
yung I was able to
chat.
get
So
those
kanina I
information
was
from our Facebook page commenters. Ayan. From Sir Edgar D. Lorente. Yan. Ito po yung kanyang definition about resilience. So I think this one is na-share niya during your first discussion, first part of your discussion that based on Sir Edgar, yung resilience is mabilis makaahon pagkatapos ng isang unos or matinding pagsubok. Ayan. So hopefully ito din yung somehow naging na-impart ng ating discussion or parang na-incorporate during the whole discussion on what resilience truly is. Ayan, sa atin pong mga participants on board, if you have, yun nga, kagaya ng sabi ng ating resource speaker kanina, if you have a different or similar perception about resilience, so hopefully through that discussion, you were able to gather more relevant information kung ano ba talaga yung resilience and how it can be applied, particularly din sa science, technology, and innovation. Ayan. So moving forward, let us now dig deeper dun sa mga ibang questions that we gathered. And so we have here po ma'am selected or parang naka-receive po kami ng series of questions. I think this is 3. So if ever meron po mga other comments po or questions na you would like to clarify with our resource speaker, kindly utilize our Q&A box or sa ating chat box po. Ayan. So ito po, based on one of our participants here on Zoom. Question niya po ma'am is paano po magkaroon ng login account for grisk.ph? So this is coming from Sir Ray Josiah Echano po.
And hi, sir. Hi, sir Ray. So in order for you to have a credential, I think as of now, government agencies pa lang yung nagkakaroon. Pero you can have access for geoanalytics and yung other platform. I think you need to email yung GeoRisk na email address. It's in the DOST Innovations book. Lahat po ng sinabi ko ngayon nandun sa DOST Innovations book, including a step-by-step guide kung paano nyo po siya gamitin and yung contact information. I think mas maganda po na i-contact natin yung IT team natin para mag-grant po kayo ng access. Kasi gusto po nilang malaman yung profile po ninyo and for what purpose will you be using kasi there will be a lot of data in the website, so they are also the ones validating po no kung paano kayo magkakaroon ng credentials. Oftentimes it's not one way. Yung credentials dapat meron ka ding kino-contribute sa database and kaya kadalasan mga government institutions po yung may credentials like DepEd for the schools, DTI for MSME, so they all contribute to the data. So it's not just DOST managing the platform, it's together with other mandated institutions.
Okay, yeah. So thank you very much po, ma'am. Ayan, so Sir Ray. Ayan, so if ever po, you can download po yung ating innovations book that is downloadable sa kanilang sa DOSC web page. And so hopefully then po you're able to understand yung differences as well. Kanina na-discuss ni Miss Rachel yung different applications that are available, readily available for utilization both by the government, private, and even individual. So kanina I was nakita ko yung different gravity ng mga usage ng ating mga application. So kanina ayan may nag-comment din dito ma'am na coming from Miss Melody that these books are very valuable nga po resources for both the LGUs as well and students asking for hazard maps. Ayan, so thank you very much po ma'am Rachel for also sharing those applications and innovations na yun nga not only the local governments can utilize but also yung ating mga students na somehow nagsisimula na din na makapag-build up ng kanilang concern in terms of disaster preparedness, mitigation, and response. Yeah. So thank you very much po ma'am for that answer. So hopefully po you're able to clarify your concern po, Sir Ray. And so also reading here po the comment from Rosario Targa. So thank you very much po. Innovation in all aspect of our innovation, people, and society, or environment rather, environment, people, and society. Yeah, so we have here another question po, ma'am. So what are some of the successful examples of international collaborations and partnerships na somehow nakita na natin or parang nag-prove that utilizing science, technology, and innovation for the RRM, and how can these models be replicated or scaled up?
And thank you for the question. Tama po kayo, no? I like to put it this way that while we are always pag mga humanitarian assess experts sa Philippines, but we are always being helped by other countries. I'd like to think that we are also becoming experts and pioneers when it comes to science, technology, and innovation. And I think one living proof is the Geo-Risk Philippines initiative. That's why it's our kumbaga our banner initiative when it comes to science, technology, and innovation. Because one, it's a governance platform. Several member agencies of the NDRMs are working together and utilizing that platform to enable the decision making, scientific and evidence based decision making among various government instrumentalities. Pangalawa, yung some of the features in GeoRIS PH are being co-developed by World Bank, an international institution, and it's a proof that many of these international organizations are taking an interest in GeoRIS PH because it's actually translating into a governance platform, risk information dissemination, among others. And so when we introduce this in other parts of the world, especially in conferences, I think Secretary Solido presented it in the Global Platform for DRR and even in Geneva um, in a science and technology conference. Um, they're they're very much excited on how Filipinos are now maximizing digital transformation. But the admittedly the challenge also is that not everyone in the Philippines has the access to internet or has the access to web and mobile applications. So habang meron tayong ganitong transformation and innovation, we're also balancing and ensuring that we are still reaching the people at the last and the farthest mile. Kasi syempre, yun yung kumbaga demographics sa Philippines. Not everyone, hindi pa rin merong access, but we are a model, I could say, safely say,
no?
especially in the ASEAN when it comes to utilizing this platform. Apart from that, madami eh. So we have the Newton Agham program with the Met Office of United Kingdom. I think this international
Ne,
collaboration
nag-rides ako ha.
allows
Ayan, nagulong ka ba
our
no?
scientists
Eto,
to
10K oh.
learn from
Sabi siguro nung
the
masabi mo nung par.
Met Office in
Sige,
the United
mag-iingat
Kingdom.
ka.
And pagbalik nila dito, they're introducing their own innovations from what they know and among others. So, yun yung mga pumapasok sa isipan ko, but I think that's only few of the most significant international collaborations.
Lahat, motor, malinis na.
Alright, so thank you very
Yung
much.
suit, naka-ready na. Yung helmet,
And so I
napunasan
heard
na.
you mentioning
Shiny
the
na,
World
no?
Map,
Ang
which is one of the
tibay.
parang
Talagang yung gulong na check na lahat.
institution that we
Talagang
assisted as
yung
well here in
langis,
Tagaytay. Can you
yung
confirm po,
ulat.
ma'am?
Wow,
Yun yata yung
talagang
kanilang
prepare na si
transport
Para.
po ba?
Ang saya
Yes,
naman
that's
nun.
right.
Sabay, eto na ngayon
So,
pa.
That's the same
Siyempre.
plan smart that I talked about kanina.
Magra-rides na kayo, no?
Ayun. So, yun
Pinayagan ka
nga,
na eh. Sabi mo ba sa ano mo?
na-realize ko na a while ago
Kasama mo
that
sa
there are
Kamoto Club mo,
really
yan eh.
some international collaborations that
Kahit
are happening
magbubusan tayo ng
between,
araw
not
ngayon,
only
par.
for the DOS,
Di ako
but
dyan.
as well as
Paalam
different
ako eh.
local institutions
Yan ay,
with
gumulong ko ba, no?
international partners din
Antigas
natin.
ng dating
And of
mo,
course, yun nga,
sinasabi ko
good
sa'yo.
thing na
Sabay,
nabanggit
eto na
din
ngayon, par, no?
which is
Pagka
parang
ano ngayon, par,
tumatak sa puso ko ngayon is
rides na
that
kayo, no?
Philippines is
Eh,
really
medyo
parang
akyatin yung mga pupuntahan
nag-spearhead
nyo.
na as
Talagang
in
20
terms
yun,
of,
no? Talagang,
doing these kinds of
ang
activities or
lamig ng
initiatives
nararamdaman
for
ko nung pag binukas na
so
yung
yun nga, para
helmet.
siguro it boils down to knowing that
Walang
Philippines is
ganito
the top
sa
one
metro, no?
disaster-proof
Talagang
locality
iba tong hangin na to
country
eh.
within
Yan na,
all
ayaw
of
po.
the world.
Sabi pag binakasalubong ka pa pa, busina ka pa, no?
Kailangan ng mga Pilipino na mag-speed up in
Right
terms
side!
of
Yan ay
preparedness,
gumaganong
mitigation,
ka
and
ba, no?
response para
Ang
maprotektahan
tibay
natin
talagang.
not only yung
Aba,
country,
iba na
but
si
of course,
Para.
yung ating mga
Talagang
ginagawa
malupit
dito,
na.
yung ating mga
Pinayagan
lives
pa
and
talaga.
livestock. So thank you
Talagang
very much po, ma'am.
parang
Rachel, for that,
kalapati talagang
very
pinaronda, no?
fruitful answer. So siguro this is the last question. And
Sabay pa,
I'll go,
eto na ngayon, par, no?
check with the chat
Siyempre,
box.
nandun na kayo, magpapahinga ka.
So question number 3
Kakain
po,
kayo
ma'am.
muna,
In
par.
your opinion, are there
Kain
any
kayo, no?
specific areas within the
Ah,
ORM
sa mga
where there
bulaluhan,
is
o kaya
need for
parisan
further
yung
technological
talagang
advancements
tinatao,
or
yung
innovative
talagang
solutions?
bato
So,
kung tawagin, yung
kanina you have
matitindi.
discussed some
Ang
innovative
sarap nun,
activities,
sinasabi ko sa'yo.
advancements in technology for
Talaga ka naman talaga mapapapikit ka eh, no? Sabay may sawsawan ka na, no? Pati sili, sabay may kalamansi. Talaga ka, mabisa. Ayun, ganun yung mga tagpo, no? Sabay eto na ngayon par, edi papahinga kayo eh, mahaba yan nyo eh. Yung rides eh, maglulup kayo yung mga datingan nyo. Ito na ngayon par, pagka ano nyo, no?
Actually, this is
ang sarap naman, talagang
Sige.
free ako.
I'll try to answer this one. This is very interesting.
Sabay, eto na ngayon par, pagka ano mo, higang ganyan.
Areas that needs further
kinabukasan,
technological advancement. And the two things that
ino-overwhelm
come
ka,
up in my
no?
mind are actually
Tumaas yung
one in
uric
prevention
acid
and
mo, no?
mitigation and
Namaga yung mga
rehabilitation
paa
and
mo.
recovery.
I
mentioned about this one, itong dalawang
agad. Talaga naman.
mutually reinforcing pillars of disasters reduction and management, mainly because they are the most important but the most often neglected aspect. One, because it's expensive. Second, someone is doing but hindi siya nakikita at the bigger picture, kaya later nagiging problem siya. So I want to highlight prevention and mitigation and rehabilitation and recovery. In terms of prevention and mitigation, we already have early warning systems existing both for geologic and hydromet na hazards. Ang future merong mga systems, but our vision is to later on own regions, own local government units or provinces can potentially have their own scientific office. Pero it's just my personal take. Para mas mabilis yung information. Kasi given our risk profile, even with the existing number of systems, there's still a limit when it comes to human resource sa mga scientific offices natin. And what best way or how maybe yung local dream office i-adapt nila yung EWS. I don't know. I'm not yet sure, but currently it's all regional based yung mga sa early warning systems natin. In terms of prevention and mitigation pa din, pangalawa, siguro kailangan natin ng technological advancement when it comes to building houses. I really like watching vlogs about architectural designs. I'm not an architect, but I'm taking interest because isa yung messaging na you should get as an architect. You should get a civil engineer. Kasi kapag nagkaroon ng earthquake, eventually, yun yung mga magiging considerations. Andun siya sa checklist. Andun siya sa questionnaire na how safe is my house. Kasi it helps you know Kasi hindi lang kasi yung bahay titingnan mo, the type of soil, di ba? So it's a lot of things. And I think yung technology minsan na iniisip natin, it's not even yung super high-tech Minsan yung pinakaabot lang ng common sense natin. Yun yung mga dapat ma-reinforce sa Filipino culture so that we can push forward prevention and mitigation. Apart from that, siguro maybe introduce new technologies na yung abot kayang presyo na structurally sound na magagamit ng mga Pilipino. And I think there are certain technologies developed and researches about bamboo, yung hollow blocks na gawa sa or bricks na gawa sa plastic, may mga maraming ganun. So, yun sana maging available siya to the market, ma-commercialize siya. And yun yung connection niya sa rehabilitation and recovery. How can we reinforce that in our recovery? Kasi usually, recovery takes a lot of time. Minimum 10 years. 'Di ba? So look at Japan and the Fukushima tsunami, earthquake and tsunami. They're still recovering. And it requires a lot of attention and details on how we want to design our city. Design and plan our city. Kaya very important na while there are available technologies, the question is, paano ba siya ginagamit ng local government unit? Paano siya ginagamit ng community or even at the individual level? So, interesting and kind of difficult to answer, but I hope na nasagot ko po yung katanungan. I like this question.
Okay, ayan. So thank you very much po, ma'am. Ayan, so medyo nahirapan tayo dun sa last question, but I like the answer po talaga din, ma'am. Particularly dun sa pag-discuss niyo that we should start building our own houses with structurally sound na mga infrastructure. Kasi yun nga, we all know that the basic parang community is starting from our own houses or sa ating mga bahay. Ayan. So if we are able to properly build up yung ating mga bahay, ayan. So syempre, it will go down to the community, to the barangay, to the municipality, or even to the city, and until mag-reach tayo dun sa structurally sound na mga infrastructure all over the country. Ayan. So although medyo mahirap nga din siyang i-prevent, particularly yung mga earthquake na we don't know if kung kailan mag-struck, kung kailan sila a-atake or kailan siyang dadating sa ating bansa. But yun, if we are able to provide that kind of solution right there and then, yan, siguro makakaligtas naman tayo. Ayan, magandang point yun, ma'am, na I'd like to also consider kapag kami naman yung magpapaano na din, magpapagawa ng bahay. Ayan.
Oo, diba?
Opo.
Tama. Actually, they always, yung parang common, parang reply is, mahal expensive But I think losing a loved one, losing even one life is mas expensive yun. So, I hope the government institutions also offer some assistance. I know there are several initiatives. Meron akong napuntahan but it's a relocation site, Disciplina Bignay Village in Valenzuela City. So it's a good initiative that captures building resilience ng mga family na especially coming from the poorest of the poor. So, yun. But I hope our local government units primarily are the main champions and advocates.
Ayan. So thank you very much po. So hopefully po may mga attendees tayo coming from the local government units as well. Ayan. So we have to really implement yung building code natin. Ayan. Although medyo mahirap din, pero we can see at latter part na when we implement those kinds of codes, those standards, makikita natin that it can really save lives. It can really save up yung possibility na mag-lost pa tayo ng mga possible or mag-incur pa ng additional damages. Kasi syempre kung not structurally sound yung ating ginawa, syempre it will also entail more or additional cost. And so we have another question here, but I'm seeing Ma'am Rachel typing her answer. And so I'm just going to read po. So if ever po you would like to also answer that one live. And so good PM po from an anonymous attendee. How secure is my personal data when using GeoRisk PH po? And dagdag question na din po kung may app po ba ang GeoRisk PH platforms available in Play Store to easy open po.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ayan.
Yan, sasabihin ko na lang. So, usually the data that we display in the platform are also the data collected by our government science agencies. So rest assured that it's already processed. So yun. And then pangalawa, they use advanced equipment to store data. I don't know the specifics, but it's part of the consent and memorandum of agreements with government institutions. And dun sa book na sinabi rin kanina ni Sir JC, nakalagay po doon kung available siya sa Play Store or available po siya sa Android din. So I hope you browse later yung ating innovations book. Thank you.
Ayan. So thank you very much po once again, ma'am, for those or answering those questions po. And so if ever po may mga questions and clarifications pa po yung ating mga participants that will be or you wanted to raise sa ating resource speaker, so siguro po you can have it chatted sa ating chat box and we will be raising them directly na lang po kay resource speaker through email. And hopefully po we can also get back to your concerns and questions via email na rin po. Ayan. So with the advent of time, we will be proceeding with the next portion of this activity. So once again, ma'am, thank you very much po for answering those questions and of course for the very wonderful discussion that you have shared with us this afternoon. And so on behalf of the department, we would like to also provide you this certificate of appreciation. So this will be signed by our regional director. So thank you very much po once again. So allow me to read the context of this certificate. So this certificate of appreciation is awarded to Ms. Rachel Ann L. Miranda for her invaluable insights, expertise, and experience shared as resource speaker for the participants of the webinar entitled Advancing Science, Technology, and Innovation in the RRM. So this is held during the month-long activity on From Preparedness to Recovery, Strengthening Resilience across the disaster cycle. So last July or today, July 4, 2023 via Zoom platform. So given this 4th day of July 2023 at the ICT Regions 4A. So this will be signed po by our regional director, Director Cheryl C. Ortega. Ma'am, thank you very much po for your time. And of course, thank you for being with us this afternoon. And of course, thank you din po, Department of Science and Technology po.
And thank you, Sir JC and the rest of the ICT Region 4 team for coming up with this very relevant and significant activity, and we're looking forward to more collaborations with your office. And thank you so much as well to our very active participants for engaging with me in this afternoon's presentation. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much po once again, Ma'am Rachel and Miranda. And of course, yun nga, thank you very much din po sa ating mga live participants here on Zoom. And of course, yung mga nanonood po sa atin via Facebook Live offered through our Facebook pages, the ICT Regions 4A and the ICT Region 4B. So thank you very much po. So we are looking forward to seeing you all again sa ating upcoming webinars din po. Ayan. So hopefully po makapag-register din po kayo. And so once again, ito po yung mga dun sa po mga nag-i-inquire for the evaluation. So we will be also uploading or putting in sa chat box po natin yung ating evaluation form. So once again, it is a requirement po for you to receive your e-certificate. And so you may either scan the QR code flashed on your screen or go to this access link. That's forms.office.com/r/yan. Hindi ko mabasa. Medyo, ayan. So also inputted sa ating chat box po. So we will also be posting this link sa atin pong mga Facebook pages para po makapag-evaluate po. So this will be open until tomorrow noon, 12 p.m. po. So we are hoping po na ma-receive yung inyong responses until that date. So once again po, we would like to reiterate po only select the date of the activity you are participating in. So today is July 4, 2023. So the ICT staff will validate your responses and will void out improperly inputted details without prior notice po. Ayan. So hopefully po that is clear as well. So once again, on behalf of the Department of ICT and of course our partner institution for this afternoon's activity, the Department of Science and Technology, and of course our resource speaker, Ma'am Rachel Ann Miranda. Ma'am, thank you very much po. And of course, sa ating po mga viewers, sa mga nakinig po, mga attendees natin, live participants natin, thank you very much po and hope to see you again next week or next activity po natin. Thank you very much po. Stay safe po tayong lahat.